Coolidge's speeches, I think, are underappreciated gems. Coolidge wrote his own speeches. Hard to believe that that would happen today, but he wrote them all himself, and many of them, of course, were on the topic of business. On the back of the program is a quote to which we referred already today: "The chief business of America is business," but there are others, too. And one of the best, I think, is a speech he gave to the New York Chamber of Commerce in November of 1925, just a little over a century ago. Our speech and debate program at the Foundation includes a declamation component where students study Coolidge's speeches and perform them. So to share an excerpt of that speech from November of 25, please welcome the 2024 Coolidge Cup National Declamation Champion, Eithan Ackerman of North Carolina.
Thank you, Governor Douglas, for that heartfelt introduction. This time and place naturally suggests some consideration of commerce in its relation to government and society. The great cities of the ancient world were the seats of both government and industrial power. In the modern world, government is inclined to be merely a tenant of the city. Political life and industrial life flow on side by side, but practically separated from each other. When we contemplate the enormous power, autocratic and uncontrolled, which would have been created by joining the authority of government with the influence of business, we can better appreciate the wisdom of the fathers in their wise dispensation, which made Washington the political center of the country and left New York to develop into its business center. They wrought mightily for freedom. The great advantages of this seem to me to be obvious. If a contest could be held to determine how much those who are really prominent in our government life know about business, and how much those who are really prominent in our business life know about government, it is my firm conviction that the prize would be awarded to those who are in government life. This is as it ought to be. For those who have the greater authority ought to have the greater knowledge. But it is my even firmer conviction that the general welfare of our country could be very much advanced through a better knowledge by both of those parties of the multifold problems with which each has to deal. While I have spoken of what I believe would be the advantages of a more sympathetic understanding, I should then put an even stronger emphasis on the desirability of the largest possible independence between government and business. Each ought to be sovereign in its own sphere. When government comes unduly under the influence of business, the tendency is to develop an administration which closes the door of opportunity. It becomes narrow and selfish in its outlook and results in oligarchy. When government enters the field of business with its great resources, it has a tendency to extravagance and inefficiency. But having the power to crush all competitors likewise closes the door of opportunity and results in monopoly. While there has been in the past, and will be in the future, a considerable effort in this country of different business interests to attempt to run the government in such a way as to set up a system of privilege, and while there have been and will be those who are constantly seeking to commit the government to a policy of infringing upon the domain of private business, both of these efforts have been very largely discredited. When I've been referring to business, I have used the word in its all-inclusive sense. It is an effort by which men provide for the material needs of each other While it is not an end in and of itself, it is the important means for the attainment of a supreme end. It rests squarely on the law of service. It has for its main reliance truth, faith, and justice. Except for the requirements of safety, health, and taxation, the law actually enters very little into the work of production. It is mostly when we come to the problems of distribution that we meet the more rigid exactions of legislation. The whole policy of the government, in its system of opposition to monopoly, and its public regulation of transportation and trade, has been animated by a desire to have business remain business. We are a politically free people and must remain an economically free people. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to estimate the contribution which government makes to business. It is notorious that where government is bad, business is bad. The mere fundamental precepts of the administration of justice, the providing of order and security, are priceless. The prime element in the value of all property is the knowledge that its peaceful enjoyment will be publicly defended. If disorder should break out in your city, if there should be a conviction extending over any length of time so that the rights of persons and property could be no longer projected by the law, the value of all your tall buildings would shrink to about what the price of the low waterfronts of old Carthage, or what are low corner lots in ancient Babylon. It is really the extension of these fundamental rights that the government is constantly attempting to apply to modern business. It wants its rightful possessors to rest in security. It wants any wrongs that they may suffer to have a legal remedy. And it is all the time striving through administrative machinery to prevent, in advance, the infliction of injustice. This is the land of George Washington. We can do no less than work towards the realization of his hope. We must meet our perils. We must encounter our dangers. We must make our sacrifices, or history will recount that the great works of Washington have failed. I do not believe the future is to be dismayed by that record. The truth and faith and justice of the ancient days have not departed from us. Thank you.